The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
In the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have a right to life, we have a right to defend life.
This legislation is centered on meeting the needs of Idaho families.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
The courts have long held that our ability to transfer title on real property benefits society as a whole.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
I feel like we're back to an unappointed board that gets to decide who is essential and who is non-essential.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
And for me, it's about a couple things. It's about food security, it's about national security, and it's about preserving American exceptionalism.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Welcome back, everyone. We are live. It is January 16th, 2024. My name is Matt Edwards, and I welcome you to the program. We are live on X. We are live on Rumble. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, so long as they'll have us. And it is a pleasure to be here. We have a great show for you today. There's some history in the state of Idaho that I've been learning more and more about. And it was brought to my attention recently that this is we're kind of in the stage here because the events that happened 40 years ago took place over a period of time. But it was indeed 40 years ago when a family in Piatt County named the Shippies stood their ground against the state of Idaho when it came to homeschooling and homeschooling their family. And so we have a guest on today that shared with me a clip, and I'd like to play part of this segment from an old PBS Idaho Reports report, basically, that aired 40 years ago, detailing and documenting what was happening with the Shippey family regarding homeschooling. So let's bring up this clip. Again, this is from 40 years ago. We're going to play a large portion of it, and then we'll bring on our guest shortly or right after that. So let's go to this clip. This is 40 years ago. Idaho Reports.
What's your problem with the public schools?
Nothing. Nothing at all. You know, we just want our children at home, really.
Sam Shippey, his two brothers, and their wives spent their 13th day in jail today, while the three couples' children remain at home and out of school. Sam Shippey's 7-year-old daughter spent part of today writing a letter to her mother in jail. Tonight we'll look at this increasingly celebrated case where an Idaho family is defying state law about sending their children to school. Good evening. Just how far can the state go in its efforts to assure that children are properly educated? Just what is the state's legitimate interest in the education of children? Who is to decide what makes for adequate schooling? Should the state decide? Should parents decide? All of those questions are being played out right now, not in some theoretical discussion in a political science or education classroom, but in a courtroom and in a jail cell in Piatt County. 3 brothers, all of them named Shippy, and their wives are in jail tonight, still refusing to acknowledge that the state has a responsibility to require that either their children attend a public school or a private or approved homeschool that meets certain state standards. The Shippy case is drawing a lot of attention beyond the borders of Idaho now. We'll be focusing on it tonight, hearing shortly on tape from one of the Shippy brothers. We'll also be discussing the situation later with State School Superintendent Jerry Evans and with State Representative Bob Forey, among others. Yesterday, about 50 members of the close-knit Shippy family filed quietly into the Payette County Courthouse, where 16 of the family's school-aged children pleaded innocent to charges of truancy. The arraignment of the children follows the jailing of their parents on November 15th. The parents had failed to obey a court order that they provide approved schooling for their children. The children were scheduled to go back to court again next week. If the children are found next week to have been truant, the court could order them placed in a foster home or in a state institution. Idaho law requires all children, or I should say all parents, to educate their children from ages 7 through 16 in, again, either a public or approved home or private school. The Shippys have rejected that notion almost completely, saying that they should decide what kind of education their children receive. Producer Gary Richardson talked in jail today to one of the Shippy brothers, Sam Shippy.
2 years ago, we had a private school. I mean, we went into the state and got a certificate for a private school, Black Canyon Private School, and we thought that we was doing it legally. We always kind of never did want to send our children, to school really. And then so we took them out, and then anyway, they took us to court, and they won, and we sent them back. And we felt like we never felt good about the decision we made, and they went for 2 years.
Shippy explained that before the family's 2-year probation was up, they pulled the children out of school again after receiving an order to appear in court.
Why aren't you willing to work out something with the superintendent, an acceptable program at home?
Oh, I don't know. The deal they had that they sent out, we could never have done it anyway.
Why is that?
Well, they had to have accredited teachers and proper desks, proper lighting, everything like that, which we don't have. Nobody that went to school far enough, to teach them at home. They wouldn't have. We asked them to approve the school, but they didn't, took it into the school board.
Some people argue that by doing this, you're depriving the kids of skills that they really need to succeed in this society.
I mean, to me, unless I prove an unfit parent, first I should be proven an unfit parent, it would be my decision, same as it is each parent's decision, to raise his own children. But they haven't proven that yet, that our children are going to be deficient or improper for society, to live in it.
Of course, the law doesn't say that they have to. The law says you have to send the kids to school.
That's all it is, yeah. It isn't. But if they check the records, those last 2 years, and they'll see that it wasn't no good sending them by force, the biggest percent of our children were flunking. Some of the grade schools were doing better, but we didn't do it because we wanted to. The children didn't go because they wanted to, It was just a forced deal, a forced attendance is all it is, And it wasn't so bad sending them before when we thought we had to. But when we sent them to stay out of jail, it was really hard, because of fear of going to jail. Then it was awful hard to live with.
Do you object to what they're being taught in the schools?
Oh, not much, no. Well, probably some of it I would if I knew, but I don't really, no, not much. I don't consider it important, schooling, like most people would.
What do you consider important for your kids?
Oh, to be good, really. That's what we strive most for, to be, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, just good children, more good morals, and I've got 4 daughters married now, just work for their own living,
Would you say that there's a religious motivation behind what you're doing?
Oh, yes, yeah. It tells a father to raise his children in nurture and admonition of the Lord.
Pardon me, say that again.
To raise up his children in nurture and admonition of the Lord, I believe that's how it puts it, And it'd have to be my decision then, how to raise them, should be, not the law, unless I proved, that I abused my children or whatever. You know, should be first, looks like to me anyway.
Shippey says even if the state takes custody of the children, he won't change his mind about sending them to school.
There ain't no other way to go for us, you know. I mean, we tried the other way, you know, doing it by force, you know, and it didn't seem right. And this way, at least, we're doing what we believe is right. You know, and I mean, it ain't pleasant by a long ways.
Later, we visited the Shippey home near New Plymouth, where 4 of Sam Shippey's married daughters are taking care of the children who are out of school, including an infant who was taken from her nursing mother when she was jailed 2 weeks ago.
If you don't think the state has good enough schools, then I don't see how they could be good enough to approve your school if they aren't a good enough. But I think they should have the right to see if they could teach them better at home, and then if they couldn't, to send them back. I think if they took them and put them in a foster home, it would be a bad misuse of foster homes, because they were designed for abused and neglected and homeless children, and as you can probably see, these kids aren't that. They, you know, I think a family is more important than an education.
Wow. Incredible footage, an incredible interview, and what a story. I am amazed at the sort of level of government force that was going on in the 80s that the people of Idaho pushed back on. And once a story like this just kind of went viral back then, as they say, nowadays, this story just spread across, and there were some major changes that happened in Idaho to the homeschooling laws. And Idaho now is one of the, if not the most deregulated state in the union when it does come to homeschooling. So it is my pleasure to bring on the great nephew of Sam Shippey, who was in that interview. With me right now from Payette County is Brandon Shippey of the Shippey family. Welcome, Brandon, to the program. Thank you for sharing that clip with us. I'm so glad we got to show it. I don't know too many people who sit around and watch 40-year-old PBS videos, but I'm glad somebody out there is to share it with us. Give us a little bit of background on your story and such. I'm going to assume that maybe there's some homeschooling in your childhood as well. I could be wrong, but let's explore this a little bit. How are you, sir?
I am really good. Thanks, Matt, for having me on. And yeah, obviously I was born in 1989, and so that had all happened before I was around. My father and mother did homeschool me as well. That was something that a lot of the Shippeys really valued. Not all of them, but a lot of them did hold to that. And so I was homeschooled myself. My wife actually was homeschooled as well. And yeah, so that's just a little bit of my background here. I was born and raised here in New Plymouth in Payette County, which is where that happened back in 83, 84. When the Shippeys got in trouble for essentially standing up for parental authority over children's education. So.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the parental authority. I mean, there's some remarkable things that stood out here. That just the demeanor of Sam Shippey there was very calm. You know, he was steadfast in his. And without apology, like, this is just what our family is set up to do. You know, we don't think they need to go to school. I mean, he was even asked if he objected to what was happening in the public school. And there's many parents today that stand on that platform and say there's so much wrong with our public schools today, which is why I don't want our children there. But that wasn't his problem. I mean, he did admit that maybe he didn't know quite everything that was going on, but at the same time, it was just about their own family values, your own family values, and how you wanted to raise your children, and that the ultimate goal was for them to be good. And that is a remarkable thing. We all hope we want to be raising good people. How has that kind of legacy been throughout your family?
Yeah, just a little bit of background of what he's trying to convey. Some of the problems that they saw in the public school system at the time was that there was a strong encouragement for the the public school children or families to seek public welfare, the different programs that were available. So there was a lot of push for that. You know, a lot of, some would probably argue that was for greater government control at the time, and the state of Idaho did have a little more control over these issues, and it really seemed like it was driving the direction of the state. There was a lot of immorality in the public schools at the time as well. I'm aware of other families that suffered some of the same issues a few years prior. In fact, my wife's grandfather had went to jail for homeschooling his oldest son in Marsing, Idaho, in 1979, and so that was a really quiet case. It didn't get much publicity, but what they saw was they had a responsibility to raise their children to grow up to be moral, good citizens, and that would be a positive impact on society. And they saw they almost really saw education as itself, like proper academics, as a threat to being moral. And I disagree a little bit on that, and it's really your approach as much as anything, rather than the academics themselves. But they saw the issues of Darwinism, and then just the open immorality in the school system as a threat, and it also deprived them of the opportunity to train them to be hardworking, to be prepared. They typically had a philosophy of getting married young, building a family, and which meant that boys need to become men by the time they're 16, 17, 18 years old. You need to be ready to provide for your own house and hold a good job, have your own house, those type of things. And so there was no sense of, we need to delay this until you're 25. And so most shippies would typically at the time be married by the time they were 18 or 19, maybe 20 years old, and be ready to have a family. And so with all of those philosophies in place, it did not jive. It didn't fit with the public school system. And no matter how they tried to make it fit, they tried to start their own private school and work with the school board to make that happen. And it never worked for them because the philosophies were so different. They required a certain amount of school time per day, and the shippies were convinced we need to be training them up in vocational education, those type of things. And so it was a clash of worldview almost there.
Right. Yeah. And again, the when you point out that they attempted to work within the system. So these weren't militant, survivalists or off the grid folks that wanted to be separate from society. They actually wanted to work within the system by setting up a private school or setting up systems and trying to get the proper license or whatever it is, so that the state wouldn't ultimately end up doing what they did, which was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in there it said they jailed one of the mothers who had an infant, a 2-week-old infant who was nursing at the time. I mean, you hear about that stuff today for much different reasons, but because you are not sending your kid to a public school, they put you in jail. It's incredible.
Yeah. There was 3 brothers. There were 3 brothers and their wives that all went to jail at that time. My grandfather, he kept trying to comply. My grandfather was Terry Shippey, and he was the only one of the 3 out of the 4 that continued to comply. And because he was able to, I guess, in his own conscience, say, we're going to go ahead and just send our kids. The other 3 brothers just said our consciences won't allow it, and we're willing to go to jail over it. There was a lot of really moral issues being raised at that point, because yes, the shippies were technically breaking the law, but it was a time to revisit that. The law itself was immoral because it was depriving parents of their own God-given rights to set the direction of their children into society. The state at that time had said, no, we get to decide, what your children are going to be when they grow up, essentially. And the accusations at the time, I was contacted by Linda Patchins recently, the head of Homeschool Idaho, and asking questions of how did some of those children turn out. Solomon Shippey, for example, was one that he was one of the more famous ones. There's a picture of him being drugged into a police car by Sheriff Browski, and that made it on the face of books and articles and newspaper. And how did he turn out? He's a very successful man. He's a diesel mechanic. He owns his own property. He's got kids and grandkids. He's not a drain on society. He's never taken a dime of public taxpayer dollars. And
Yeah. Okay. We got to take a quick break. I want to come back and build upon what you just led us in there to, because I want to get your reaction from some modern day folks regarding this topic. So we will be right back with Brandon Shippey.
All Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those two founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho. We ride together.
Okay, we are back with Brandon Shippey. Brandon, I don't know if you saw this clip, but last week there was a meeting in the State House, and legislators attended. It was a presentation about school choice, and Representative Stephanie Mickelson, she asked a two-part question, and I want to play that clip for you here. Guys, want to roll that?
Is about homeschooling and some of the impact there. Does a homeschool parent just say, I'm homeschooling my child, no requirements beyond that? And what if they homeschool them for 2 or 3 weeks, take the tax credit and dump them into the public school system? And then what are the outcomes for kids that have been in the homeschool system as far as being functional adults?
Okay, again, thanks to Think Liberty PAC for capturing that clip. I want to focus on the second part of that, not the fraud section in the beginning, but the second part of that about this ongoing stigma that homeschoolers will not end up being functional adults. You just got through telling us a perfect example of that, and this stigma may have come about even at the time of your grandfather and your great uncle, but it doesn't seem to have evolved for certain people. What is your take on that when there are still people out there who believe that homeschoolers do not produce functional adults, or to whatever that means?
It makes me laugh. I grew up around homeschool families, and like I said, myself I was homeschooled, and I have yet to meet an individual who was homeschooled that is dysfunctional. Everybody I know that has been homeschooled, they're highly capable, highly functional contributors to society in positive ways. Most of them are entrepreneurs. It seems like there is a connection between being homeschooled and being an entrepreneur, somebody that pursues business ownership, property ownership, independence, self-governance. Those things all seem to come together, which I think promotes a healthier individual in society, and not a dysfunctional. I don't even know where that would even come from. That literally makes no sense to me. Usually, from what I've seen, they're not homeschoolers. Typically, are not drug users. They're not involved in violent, domestic disputes. They're usually not the people in jail. And I'm not just speaking from being partial here. That's just what I've seen. I'm sure there are some dysfunctional adults out there who were homeschooled, but
sure.
In large part, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I'm not homeschooled myself. My children are not homeschooled, so I do know obviously people that have gone that route. But it was shocking to me that people would even still think that in today's day and age. So, dovetailing off the functionality of that and the fact that you were homeschooled and how you seem to appear to be a functional adult, it seems as though that you are so functional that you feel that maybe a position as a senator in our state legislature might be in your future here, and which you're headed for. So, tell me a little bit about what brought you to be running for the Senate.
Yeah, so I'm running for state senate here in District 9, which is Washington County, Payette County, and a portion of Canyon County here in southwestern Idaho. The current incumbent, Abby Lee, has been a senator for about 10 years, and most of the voters here that I have had any interaction with, which is very widespread, they feel that she has completely disconnected with the constituency, and mainly is just representing the big corporate interests of Idaho. She has been for a number of years IACI endorsed, and is largely supported by the corporations in Idaho, the big corporate PACs and so on. Very few individual donations, and even a lot of folks who originally supported her when she first ran back in 2014 have come to me directly and said she won't return our calls, she won't get back with us. We feel completely estranged from her, and so there were a lot of needs. That's just the overall picture that we're seeing here. I am a very approachable individual type person. My family, like I said, has been around the district for generations. My great grandfather settled here in Washington County. I live in Payette County, but here in District 9, back following World War II, and they were land levelers, farmers. They poured concrete ditch. They mainly worked in the agricultural industry, but they helped build this country out here. And my family's highly respected, trusted, and they were never involved in politics. But I decided I needed to get involved. I was asked to run, and I've got a big advantage over a lot of potential candidates because I've got a well-known name. It gives me a head start already, and a name that people trust. So those were some of the reasons I decided to go ahead and run. I'm involved in the Republican Party in Idaho. I'm also a precinct committeeman here in Payette County, Precinct 8, and then I'm also on the State Central Committee. And so I've been involved for several years in Idaho politics, but I'm new to this, into the political sphere. The Shippies were just hardworking people in the communities, but never got involved, and I decided I needed to make a difference in this area. So when it comes to the overall philosophy of my position versus my opponent's position is small government versus big government. I believe that government has a God-given duty and role in this world, and that is to protect individual rights and property from each other and from foreign countries and even from itself. But government primarily exists to protect the God-given rights and property of individuals. And beyond that, government really doesn't have a very large role in society, in my view. And so that's what I want to promote. I want to promote that through policy and through resolution wherever I have an opportunity.
Well, thank you, Brandon, for stepping up, and to your family, and for the great support that I'm sure you're getting. If people want to support you, if people want to learn more about you and get in touch with you, where's the best place we can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. The best place is going to be my website, shippyforidaho.com. We are competing with big corporate money, and so would appreciate donations is huge for us, and that can be done on the website. Also, our Facebook page, Brandon Shippy for Idaho, is a great way to follow our updates and how things are going. We've done really well on our fundraising. We've raised over $54,000, which is huge for a rural Senate race like ours. And that comes almost exclusively from individuals, and it does come from individuals and small businesses. We have no corporate backing. A couple of conservative PACs have supported us as well, but we're a voice for the people and not for corporate Idaho, and that's what we're running on.
All right. Well, great. Well, thank you. We'll have to have you back. I wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Take care. All right, folks. We will be back shortly. Give us a minute.
There's a saying in Idaho: Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty. For honesty and integrity. We ride together.
Excellent. Sorry for the mix up there, but we've got you on. You guys look great. Who is there with you? Will you please introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Bella Schiffler.
Bella
I'm Representative
Schiffler. Nice
Heather
to meet
Scott's
you.
intern.
Excellent. Well, this is perfect because what I really wanted to make sure that we got to today was how citizens can get involved with the legislative process, with their representatives, and help make a difference, not just by emails and phone calls, but actually getting into the weeds and doing some stuff. So I'd like to hear from you, Representative, on how you can attract folks like Bella, how you can get how you put the word out to get people involved.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of people don't realize, Matt, but we have no personal staff to help us. And we get hundreds of emails every day and phone calls, as Bella knows. Then we try to work on our regular bills. So it's been such a blessing to have Bella here. It's a lot of it's networking and word of mouth and just people that let me know, hey, I'm willing to help. And that's kind of how Bella, we kind of met through a mutual friend, and she stepped up and has been helping me since last year, which has been great.
That's great. So Bella, what brought you to the point where you wanted to volunteer your time to help Representative Scott?
Well, I'm actually just super interested in the legislature. And right now I'm studying in college government and business. So this is just a super hands-on, great experience to be able to see firsthand what's going on in our government. And I think just all people, we need to be super concerned about what's happening up here in the Boise Capitol. And that's part of the reason why our government looks so bad, because people haven't been involved. And we, the people, need to have our voice back. And I think it starts a lot on the local level, like by PCs educating their people of what's actually going on and like rallying the troops.
Yeah. So back home, how involved were you in your local community? What were some of the things that you were involved in there?
Well, actually, currently right now I'm running to be a PC in Jerome County. So just right now, I've just been getting involved in the government right now on the local level and up here, just helping the legislators in any way I can.
Excellent. Okay, so Representative Scott, you've been you presented a bill yesterday. I know you've got some, that in your drawer that you'd like to see go forward here. How do you utilize Bella? How does that process help when you are able to have some help up in the State House?
Well, it's been great. So we actually had a list of 80 ideas that we were considering drafting. Of those, we had about 30 of them that we decided to get drafted after we've discussed them. And right now, we have some kind of getting ready to be heard the next 2 weeks. So Bella's been helping doing the research on making the calls, getting the information I need to pack up the idea. So that's what's been super helpful for me. The other thing Bella does for me is she helps address the lobbyists sometimes. So there's a lot of lobbyists in this building. And so Bella sits in with me with meetings a lot. And then sometimes she just goes by herself and then we just discuss the ideas and see how that really affects the people.
Wow, that's amazing. So Bella, what's been your experience hobnobbing with lobbyists and listening to them or conveying, your own thoughts or what can you tell us?
I would say it's been a very interesting experience meeting with lobbyists and just hearing lots of different sides of certain legislation and just what they're wanting to be seen as into bills and laws, and just, I don't know, just seeing what they're doing, and just the different aspects of, I don't know, they're not always the kindest, I guess I can put it that way. And that's been very eye-opening of just how everything happens up here.
Okay, well, full disclosure, I'm a registered lobbyist for the state because I run Citizens Alliance of Idaho.
Okay.
But my interests lie in liberty and in freedom. And so so when I'm lobbying, so to speak, and I have to be a registered lobbyist because I contact folks about wondering what bills are going on and wondering what they're going to be doing for the people. So hopefully, I'd like to say, have you met anybody else like me up there that's advocating for the people, or does it seem to be just, you know, for business or education or medical needs, whatever the industry is? What do you take from lobbyists in that are working for companies versus for, stuff like freedom?
I would say we do have some great Idaho Freedom Foundation lobbyists and just people that are actually lobbying for freedom and that give you information. It's amazing. I mean, that's what they're here for, is to help us and give us information. So when we see that, that is super helpful.
Yeah, great. Representative Scott, what kind of, you presented a bill, I think it was yesterday in House State Affairs, that wanted to deal with messaging, or making sure that when people receive government documentation that we're not giving special treatment to other leaders. Can you explain it a little bit?
Sure. So last year, many people got a rebate check back from the state. And if you notice, there was an elected official's name on many of those checks. And so we passed a law last year that said, hey, you can't put elected officials' names on a check, on a rebate check. Well, that disappeared this year for the rebate, but now they're starting to advertise for nonprofits. And in our research, we found that there's over 10,000 nonprofits. So how do you pick which nonprofit you advertise for? And it's really not the job of government to be advertising their favorite nonprofits. So that's what this bill addresses. It treats it as electioneering, just like if you'd put an elected official's name on that check. So that's what this bill does. It stops that.
Gotcha. So, and presumably having a name on a check, that's he didn't sign the check, right? I mean, it was just.
No, it's not a signature. This is a
elected
message.
Officials don't. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So last year was an elected official, a message from an elected official that is running for office. This time now, it's a nonprofit, and so where that could come into problems. So if you have a executive branch director that is promoting pro-life, well, half the citizens would like that, and the other half probably wouldn't like that. And so it would just depend on the person advertising it. It's just not good business practice to be promoting nonprofits or corporations on your rebate checks from the state. So that's what this bill will stop.
Okay, great. Well, I wish you luck with it. I know was it just a print hearing, or it wasn't a public hearing yet, right?
Just a print hearing.
Okay, so we got a journey.
We have a couple more coming out in the next 2 weeks. We have a cash bill. We have another one on memberships and fees that the government uses your taxpayer dollars to join groups and organizations. So those, we kind of work on a lot of system bills instead of issues, and we try to fix the system because I believe the system is broken. Many parts of it.
Yeah. No, you're really good at identifying where the gaps are and where the fixes need to be. So that's great. Okay, Heather, how can we get in touch with you? How can people follow you and make sure that they stay connected?
Well, I will say go to the Freedom Caucus website, because I'm not sure if I've updated my websites recently. So go to the Idaho Freedom Caucus website, send me a message there, and it'll get to me. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me right now. Or many of you have my number. You can always text me, and then you can call me too. I am at the Capitol right now, but my cell phone number floats out there too. So there's many ways to connect.
Excellent. All right. Well, Representative Scott, Bella, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to see you guys back.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Take care. All right, folks. Hopefully, I think we can have Jason Gallagher on here momentarily, but we'll take a quick break and see if we can grab her on. We'll be right back.
All Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those 2 founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho. We ride together.
Okay, we are back. So this morning in the House State Affairs Committee, Representative Jason Gallagher presented a bill. And so we have a clip from that presentation this morning. So let's go ahead and load that up and run it.
Representative Gallagher from District 9, which is Washington County, Payette County, and part of Canyon County. Today we have RS 30909. This is regarding state entities or public subdivisions from mandating masks.
Okay. Are there questions for Representative Gallagher? I can honestly say in 18 years, that's the shortest presentation on an RS I've ever heard. Are there questions?
Representative Brent Crane there, Chairman Crane, with an excellent observation. He's been there many years and had that committee for many years as well. So that was pretty funny. But Representative Gallagher, bringing back the mask mandate. A bill like this passed the House 2 years ago, and then it stalled and sat around being ignored when it made it to the Senate side. It was filed away into a drawer, and yours truly actually collected a bunch of signatures and went up to Pro Tem Winder's office and delivered over 1,800 signatures that we collected in a very short amount of time, trying to rally the Senate to take up the bill and vote on it in the final days of that session. It didn't happen. The bill didn't see any light of day last session, but Representative Jason Gallagher has revived it. She is with us now. I would like to invite her on. And Representative Gallagher, welcome to the program. I am so thrilled personally to see this bill come in. How are you, and what can you tell us about this bill?
Well, first of all, my connection's not real good. I'm not sure what's happening, but I might switch phones and use Heather's. So this bill, just bringing back basically what was brought before, and I brought it before the committee today, as you saw, and it passed out without any questions. But then afterwards, I did get some questions about it and some things that we need to address that are probably going to come up if we get it to a full hearing. So I think we're probably going to have to work on a few things because it didn't get through last time for these specific reasons. And so I'm just now learning about those so that those issues can be addressed this time and we can really get it through this time.
Yeah, understood. When just some personal story, when I did have that brief meeting with Senator Winder a couple of years ago, I didn't hear about why that particular bill that passed in the House was stalled in the Senate, other than just saying that, oh, well, some people didn't want to see that bill move forward, so it didn't move forward. So I didn't hear any. It seemed like to be pretty basic, and I know that this bill just got printed today, so we haven't had the chance to read it yet. So I do look forward to reading it. But can you give us any insight on maybe what one of the two main concerns might be?
So it's the bill is a general, it just says that government entities and, like city councils or county commissioners, government entities cannot mandate masks, cannot do mask mandates. And like for my town where I live, the mayor almost every week would have a reminder in the paper to keep your mask on. And he wasn't mandating it. But I think there's also a piece, there's some wording in here that says if they do recommend, that it needs to include that they're not mandating, that they're just recommending that you do that. So I guess some of the concerns are that what if you actually have somebody that you need to have put a mask on? This legislation, it does address and say that it doesn't apply to hospitals. It doesn't apply to healthcare facilities, like that would be nursing homes. It does not apply to personal businesses because government doesn't want to tell businesses what they can do or can't do. So it does specify that those are the exceptions. This is strictly to limit government's ability to tell us what to put on our body and not put on our body. So, but the questions are that maybe there's an arrest, for example, and the perpetrator is known to, I don't know, carry some illness or something, and so the police want to put a mask on him so that he doesn't spread whatever he has. They found him, he's foaming at the mouth or something. I don't know. So anyway, there's concern that in certain circumstances that a government entity may need to have the ability to put a mask on somebody for a specific reason. So
this is what's so frustrating about, and this isn't directed at you, but politicians and lawyers and all this stuff. They will always find a way to push back on something that they feel as though they want to be against it as a whole. But we're literally talking about when a mayor or a governor or a president or whoever says every single person in your town right now, if you go outside, you have to wear a mask for no other reason than to say you're going to protect the person from getting sick next to you. Like this is like, that is what we're trying to say you cannot do. And they keep telling us that, oh, well, we didn't do it in this town and we didn't do it in the county and we don't want to tell people what to do. Well, you literally are telling people what to do by telling them they need to wear a mask, or that you have to send your child to school wearing a mask and going through all of these ridiculous hoops and literal hoops on the ground they make you stand in so you can stay 6 feet apart from somebody. And all of the quote science that was behind all of this stuff is being dismantled day after day, month after month, as the further we get away from the pandemic that we all had to suffer through. And so when you come on with a bill that simply states, look, a government or a sub-government agency cannot just issue a mask mandate on the public, and they're going, well, what if we encounter a drug addict with tuberculosis? It's like, okay, come on. This is why common sense dies when it lands to the State House. I apologize for going on this rant here, but I know you have a battle ahead of you answering these questions. And how do you feel going forward that you can address some of these concerns and just get the House and then hopefully the Senate behind this?
I think I'm going to have to do some talking with some people that maybe in law enforcement or in the Department of Corrections, possibly, just to get a few answers and maybe their suggestions and find examples. What are the examples and how often are they? I mean, this is, like you said, it is frustrating when you're trying to do something and this happened with my vitamin and supplement bill last session, where the Democrats didn't like it because it might someday down the road, the federal government might sue us because we don't want to do what they're telling us we have to do. The fear the fear of maybe someday something happening or somebody disagreeing with this. Instead of can we just do the right thing right now? And, maybe something will happen, but maybe it won't.
Right. But let's address the issue. All right. Well, Representative Gallagher, thank you so much for coming on last minute. I wish you best of luck with this bill, and we are going to make sure that this bill moves forward. And so I want to make sure that people can back you, can support you. So what's the best way to get in touch with you or follow you and help amplify your stuff?
So my website is jasonforidaho.com. And then, see right there. And then the Idaho Freedom Caucus, you can reach me through there. And I'm trying to send out newsletters to my constituents and keep people informed on what I'm doing and working on.
Excellent.
People can also call me. Should I give out my phone number?
Go right ahead. I mean, this is what it's for.
Yeah, people can call me 208-960-0051.
All right. Let those bells.
Leave a voicemail and I'll call you back.
All right. Yeah, leave a voicemail. Perfect. Okay. Representative Gallagher, thank you so much. We'll keep tabs on this and have you back to discuss more and everything else that you're working on. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. All right, folks. We're going to land this plane. It was a little rough today, but we got through it. We might do some editing for the archived version, but I hope you understand that. Anyway, thank you again for joining us. If you want to support Idaho Signal, please head over to idahosignal.com. I want to thank the guys in the crew today. They were jamming, helping every situation, and we'll get these kinks out. So this is just our second week. idahosignal.com to support us, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.
This bill, I think, puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.